Hi Mal. Alright, I'm gonna do a brief overview of Templar Healer, and then if you have questions, feel free to let me know. I hope I don't move too quickly. Alright, so I'll start off with character sheet. So I'll show you, I use the Shadow. I like to go for crit heals. I use the Shadow in conjunction with certain CP, like Fighting Finesse, which is another boost to crit healing. You do not have to do this. You can, there are other options that you can choose. If you wanted to go for spell damage, you could. I would not recommend that you go for recovery. You shouldn't need it, especially in Templar Healer last couple patches, because one of the sets that they're wearing requires heavy attacks. These are my stats. Well, you can see my attribute points are all into Magicka, and then you can see my stats. You can see my spell damage, um, my crit rating, and recovery. Now, I'll show you that none of my jewels have recovery, so you see how high my recovery is. That's just with food and gear. All right, here's the gear setup. Now, with this setup, you have a couple of options. On Templar Healer specifically, this does not apply to Warden or Necro. You first, you'll always body Yorvolds because the fifth trait needs to be up all of the time. It's for everything that you do, every shield, Warhorn, everything, every buff that you do. So it's got to be up all the time. It can't drop off. If you have to mix and match, jewels and body pieces, totally fine. Just make sure you have 5 pieces up all times and never on the staves. Your volts can never be on the staves. For a set, you're most likely going to be in Symphony of Blades all the time. There are a few specific instances where, like VCR, where you might be in Troll King or Bogdan, but most of the time, you're going to be in Symphony. And then, so you'll see jewels, always spell damage. You want spell damage increases your heal, your outright heals. So the idea is you have high spell damage and a good crit rating. You have solid heals, and then when they crit, they're really nice. Divine Magico on everything. All right, so for Templar Healer specifically, there are 2 setups for staves that you can do. You can either front bar the Master and back bar RO, or you front bar RO and back bar Maelstrom. Okay, so you're either front barring Master and back barring RO, or you're front barring RO and back barring Maelstrom. The reason is, the reason these are both options for you, right now on Templar, if you're in an Inferno staff and you're using the Maelstrom on the back bar, so you have RO front, Maelstrom back, it's higher damage. It's going to eke out, it's going to be perform better than this setup right here that I have. Master, Resto, RO, backbard. Also, the other healer, ideally Warden, will be using the Master Resto, so it's not necessary for both of you to use it. So this gives you some flexibility. If the other healer doesn't have Master, it's totally fine for you to go Master, front bar, RO, back bar. It's a completely viable setup, even in progs. It's a completely viable setup in hard modes. But for optimization, you would front bar RO, back bar Maelstrom. Fire Staff is going to do more damage, but the Ice Staff gives a shield. It gives a shield because of the passes in the Destro line. So assuming that the DPS are Magicka, and that they have where is it? Give me a second. Where is it? Okay, so here it's the third. I'm sorry. So it's Destruction Expert. It's the second part. So when you use ice, it gives them a shield because the DPS when the DPS or tanks take damage from that shield, they restore magicka. So that's why the ice staff is good. That's also buffed by Bastion in your red CP. It would be buffed by From the Brink in your blue CP. So that's how that works together. But again, it's totally viable for you to go to, for you to have Master Resto in front, Ice Staff on the back, or you could do Roaring Resto on the front and Maelstrom Fire on the back. For skills. So for front bar, you will have, you want to try and give as many synergies as possible while, buffing the group and also your own heals. So I like to give at least 4 synergies. And so here's how my bars are set up. Now these do change depending upon the trial. Not many changes in terms of synergies, just perhaps in terms of skills or the way the skills are organized. So, but typical setup. I have Bone Surge because it gives vitality and it's a shield, so it's buffed by your CP. Buffs your heals. Combat Prayer is a must. Use it twice. It's considered the spammable. You use it twice because it only hits 6 people on one cast, so you do it twice to get all 12. Healing Springs. So Healing Springs is also a must-have. It's also buffed by the Master Resto. Here, hold on one sec. Okay, here. So when you use Healing Springs, it gives recovery. Even if you choose to do RO front bar, the RO Resto, and Maelstrom Destro, you will still use Healing Springs. It's a must either way. It's just that the Master Resto makes it even better. Extended Ritual, it's a synergy, it's a hot, it's an AoE. And then this spot here is a flex spot. So Hasty's nice if you're ever trying to go for time. If you're in VCR, because it gives expedition, so people can move faster. If you're trying to dump magicka, because it's very expensive, like in VSO hard mode. But you could do another synergy here. An option would be Shadow Silk down in Undaunted. It's a synergy, gives a little damage boost, applies poison. It's not that terrible of a dot either from you as a healer. You could do shards if, for example, you are healing a group and the tank is away from you, and you want to get this, and you want synergies to the tank. Orbs will be too slow, so you could do shards here. You could also do just straight up rapid maneuver. I did that in a VKA run when we were going for speed. It's viable. Back bar, wall is a must. Ellie drain, orbs is a must. It's heal over time, synergy, overflowing altar. You want to make sure that you have overflowing and not sanguine. Sanguine overflowing isn't as high as an initial heal when they synergize, but it's longer, and so that's what you want in a trial. You don't really want burst heals in trials. You want sort of sustained heal over time, AoE heals always up so that there's constant heals happening. Then Power of the Life, which is a buff to the DPS. Practically speaking, it's also a way for you to mark where the DPS should be focused. So if you're in a trial, you can obviously you'd have this on the enemies that the DPS are focusing, but in a situation like VSS Ice Boss, where there are lightning Atros, if raid lead is calling out to focus on a specific Atro, you could mark that one first, and the DPS will know where to focus. That's not the most important thing about this skill. It's just sort of a nice benefit of it. And then, of course, Aggressive Warhorn, because it gives force, but it also gives recovery. And I forgot if I said it, but Barrier on the front bar, mainly because it gives you recovery from the passes in the support skill line. I think you get it's 10% mag recovery. Also, make sure you have Reviving Barrier because it's a heal over time. It's also a shield, so it's buffed by your red CP, it's buffed by your blue CP, and of course it's good in oh shit moment. Okay, for champion points. So this is how I have my champion points set up now. These do change depending upon the situation, but not really. There's only one that changes. So Swift Renewal is a must. That's your HOTS, your heals over time. Soothing Tide is for your AoE heals. So we're talking about Healing Spring. Actually, every ability that you use is going to be buffed by one or both of these two CP. Those are the most valuable CP you can have. The third, now I have Fighting Finesse, but that's because I use the Shadow Mundus. So I like to go for crit heals on top of my outright heals with spell damage glyphs on jewels. You do not have to do Fighting Finesse. If you wanted to use a different Atro, if you wanted to go for outright spell damage, it might be more practical for you to do two of the slots in Mastered Curation, whereas I have just one. I'll get to that in a second. But if you do choose to do the Shadow, then I would use Fighting Finesse. It's going to give you slightly higher crit heals. The CP here in Mastered Curation is from the Brink. Now this ties in with Bastion in the Red Tree. This also ties in with Shield Master in the Red Tree. So you might decide that it might be more beneficial for you to use one of those in a certain situation and the other in another situation. From the Brink is still going to benefit from either choice. It might happen that your other healer is using From the Brink. In that case, you would use Enlivening or Hope Infusion. Salve of Renewal is a very specific slottable that really, there are only two examples I can think where it's going to be super useful to you. That would be VKA first boss. When the poison totems come up, you use Purge. Using Purge will give you the benefit of Salve Renewal. In VHoff, on the first boss, the two little dinosaurs, they do a poison spit at the group, which puts a dot on them, and the healers purge it off. And again, Salve of Renewal would buff that. Outside of those those two specific settings, I can't right now think of another time where it's useful. There might be, but mainly you're going to be dealing with these three here. And in using these three, if you can, you have From the Brink with either Shield Master or Bastion from the Red Tree, and you're golden. And for my red CP, so these three I keep. I never change these three. What I do change is this one. So Bastion increases the effectiveness of your damage shield. So it's gonna, if you're using the Ice Staff, it will increase, and it will increase the effectiveness of the shield that the Ice Staff gives. It will increase the effectiveness of Barrier. It will increase the effectiveness of Bone Surge. And then your other option is Shield Master. So this will actually reduce the cost of Bone Surge and Barrier, which is really nice. Barrier is an ulti. When this is fully leveled up, it's 10%. So Barrier goes from a 250 ulti cost to 230, which is pretty nice in a trial. Really, I bounce back and forth between these two. If you have CP and Spirit Mastery, please take them out. As a healer, in PvE, you're not rezzing, because if you're rezzing, you're not healing, and the boss and ads do not wait for you to finish rezzing to continue their mechanics. So you always want to be putting down your HOTS, your AoEs, other heals. And then in here, Mystic Tenacity. Most of the damage that you will take is elemental. There will be some physical, obviously, but most of it's going to be elemental, and so it's just a way to mitigate that damage. And then the way I use my skills. So I use my skills just as a DPS does, meaning I do a skill and then I light attack. I do a skill and light attack. I light attack weave. So this is how I'm in a trial. So, I'm in a trial. I have your potion on and your food. The group is in front of me. I light attack Bone Surge. You do Bone Surge twice. Combat Prayer twice, same thing. Light attack, swap. And start over. Now, what this does mean is you have to be thoughtful about your skills. Obviously, you don't need to do Alter every time, because it's up for 30 seconds. Purify or Extended Ritual will technically still be down when you get there too, but only just. So it's slight overcasting, but it's good. The point is that you want to light attack. You want to light attack weave. One, it's a small boost in damage, a boost nonetheless. It also helps with recovery for you, because ideally on your whatever you have on your front bar will have the Absorb Magicka or Spell Damage glyph. So if it has Absorb Magicka, your light attacks will give you resources, and if you have the Spell Damage, they will proc that glyph and make your heal stronger. For RO also only applies to 6 people at once. So when you're using RO, you have to heavy attack 2 times in a row. Okay? You heavy attack twice so that everyone gets it. Alright? And then besides that, of course, certain situations will require you to make different choices, but where you can, you want to be using your skills in a rotation. What you don't want to be doing is just pressing buttons to spam, because so right now I have all of my HOTS and AoEs are down. Now you're not seeing the heal numbers because I can't heal this guy, but if that were a DPS or tank, they're getting everything I've got at one time. If you are sort of just mashing buttons to try and get heals down, you're not providing as many buffs as you should. You're not going to have as great uptime on all of your skills. You won't be using all of your skills, which means you're going to have a recovery issue and a sustain because you're spamming skills. And so, again, it's just best to get in the habit of using your skills in a rotation. Now, you'll notice I don't have Breath of Life on my bar anywhere. The reason I don't use Breath of Life is, one, it is very expensive. I don't even have skill points into it anymore. Rush Ceremony, I think, is the base skill. It's a very expensive skill. Also, Morphed, it's only going to heal 2 people. So if you're in a trial setting and someone is about to die, it is not a guarantee that your first cast of Breath of Life will heal them, even if they are standing directly in front of you. Um, even if they are the closest player to you, which means you have to spam it, and that is going to give you a resource issue because it's going to affect your sustain. Um, Again, it's only 2 people, so in my opinion, the cost of the skill is not worth the benefit from the skill. You can achieve the same goal of saving someone from death in a trial by spamming combat prayer. In a trial situation, when you're spamming combat prayer will crit for upwards of 30k, which is all DPS and leaves the tanks just a little bit more health. So to me, combat prayer is more effective. It also gives berserk, so it's a buff. It's not as expensive, so you can spam it. And just overall, because of those things, more useful than Breath of Life. I know that a lot of healers really get into Breath of Life. I would recommend, if you have it on your bar, that you take it off, learn how to heal with HOTS and the AoEs, using your skills in a rotation, and keep DPS and tanks alive through synergies and through thoughtful use of your skills. Now, I don't know if you're using them, but a good option as you're learning how to use your skills in a rotation, if you aren't, is to have your timers on. In where are they? I turned them on a while ago, and I don't know where they are. If you have your heal timers on, then it can, as you're going through your skills in a rotation, you'll know when to recast them. So you could use a dynamic rotation. If you have 5 seconds left on one skill and 1 second left on another skill, you could use the second skill first and the first skill second, and still keep up all your AoEs and your heals over time, and give as many synergies as you can. I recommend that you show over healing. One, if you ever have to wear spell power, it will be useful for you to know. 2, it's useful in a setting for you to know. It tells you, I use it as a way to know that I've got all of my HOTS and AoEs and synergies down. I want to constantly see those green numbers, even when the health bars are filled, because it lets me know that I'm doing my rotation. There are times where you can become narrowly focused and you get out of the rotation and you stop seeing the green numbers, and then it's sort of a reminder like, oh my god, I got to get back into my rotation. I'm trying to find timers. I forget where they are. I can't remember where they are, but find your skill timers and turn them on. I don't remember where they are. Again, it will help you keep your skills up. It will help you to use your skills in a rotation, which is a benefit to the group, and also will help you with your skill in PvE content, as you learn how to layer heals and keep them up. All right, I think that's everything. So yeah, again, this is just a general Templar setup. If you have questions, obviously reach out, let me know. And I hope you have fun in PvE.